Hey guys, Tarke here. We just entered a tier 11 with some Valdo's recipe on stuff, and I wanted to talk about the new Toxic Rain Deadeye build I'm playing. I haven't retired the other build, just having a little break from it. The reason why I wanted to make this video is Toxic Rain is a skill that I try and play every league, and every league I play it, I end up dropping it for Caustic Arrow. Like, I can never get the skill to click for me. Now, I'm not saying that my current setup is by any means optimal. This is just gear I had in SSF. I haven't got a level 20 gem even. I'm only on level 19. And I'm using a quill ring. So yeah, so just use this as grain of salt. See if it interests you. But for me anyway, this is the most enjoyable Toxic Rain build I've ever played. So usually the issue that I have with Toxic Rain is that with Caustic Arrow, I always feel like I can get enough damage out of it to kill any bosses I want to kill. And I just find it has smoother map clear. In my opinion, from the builds I've played, Caustic Arrow is my favorite skill in the game, so I'm pretty biased, right? In every league, I'll be like, I'm going to do a Toxic Rain character, I'll start leveling up Toxic Rain, and then it'll be okay. And then I'll get to maps, and I'm like, it's okay. And then I'll just swap in a Caustic Arrow that I've been leveling, and I'm like, yeah, this is just so much better. This is the first time where I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And it makes sense for me not to do that. So the main thing which like made me reach this point is the synergy between using a quill rain specifically, the way that Toxic Rain works, and the way that the new Deadeye works. So the new Deadeye has a few things going for it. It has the Mirage Archers, so you can see that my Mirage Archers are stationary, and they kind of become like turrets. So that alone means, okay, well, that obviously wouldn't be that great for Caustic Arrow, but is obviously amazing for Toxic Rain. See if we can just out and deeps it. So that alone is kind of like, yeah, Toxic Rain makes more sense than Caustic Arrow in that scenario. Also, with the Gale Wind node, which is you have Tailwind every time you attack, you gain Tailwind effects, 15% per up to a max of 10. And then the follow-up node, 3% damage reduction for each stack of Gale Wind. Having a very high attack speed and just like spamming attacks, again, has really good synergy because you will see I'm always at max stacks. Even when I get hit, I instantly go straight back up. Alright, this will be spicy. Excuse frames. Harby, by the way. And, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh, I don't know where I am. Okay. Let's just pull back a little bit. Yeah, there's just like a lot of synergy there. So it's like, okay, so you got this Mirage Archer thing. You've got this Tailwind effect that you always want to be on max Tailwind effect for. I don't want him doing a crazy big DD. With the Beyond as well, this is spicy. And then you've got the damage reduction for being at max Tailwind stacks. So you're like, okay, I can kind of see the synergy there. Now again, it's just, for me, it's a lot of fun, and it makes sense. I'm not saying it's better. I'm going to come around and attack it from this side. Than doing this as Pathfinder or Raider, but it's just like, there's a lot of synergy there, and it's just kind of cool. And I've put this character through some really sketchy scenarios. Like, I'll show you my gear once we clear this out. But every single map I've run on this character has just been like Valdo's Rest, stacking Harby, and then doing like stupid stuff with like Beyond and whatever. And I've not had a single close call now that I've said that I'm going to die. Haven't had any rips. You can see I've only got 5.5k life. Like, I didn't rush any defense early on. And that's just because I've got Acro, Phase Acro, Wind Dancer, and the Gale Wind thing. It's really resistant to one-shots because Evasion... I'll clean up the rest of this elite after, so I feel like that kind of like sells the build, right? Because Evasion is an entropy-based system, you don't... People think that Evasion is random. Evasion isn't random. The way that Evasion works is the mob has an accuracy, you have an evasion, right? And it checks their accuracy versus your evasion. And the first hit is truly random. So the first hit will either hit, it will miss. If the first one hits, it won't hit you again the second time. It will check your accuracy to your evasion, and it will be like, okay, you will miss 7 times before you hit again. So you can actually face tank really hard with evasion builds. And then when you have a lot of dodge on top of that, you then have the dodge interrupting you know. So if it's going to take 7 hits for your evasion to fail, your dodge can then buffer it. So instead of it being 7, it's actually like 10 because you dodge like 3 times in between, if that makes sense. So when you have that, and how quickly we attack and how quickly we ramp up our Gale Winds, we will always have that max damage reduction. And then we also have the damage reduction of Wind Dancer, and the combination of it just makes that actually a really tanky character. So we're only level 89, and this is my tree so far. I think I've gotten all the main damage stuff that I want to get, so I'm probably just going to fill in life at this point. With my current gear plugged into Path of Building, if I bring it up for a second, you can see 6.4k life at level 96, which is pretty respectable, especially considering the kind of like SSF gear I have, and then the damage reduction that we get through the Wind Ward, Wind Dancer, Acro, Phase Acro, the amount of evasion we have. It's like, okay, you can kind of like see the layers there. So what am I actually wearing? Like, what have I actually got like on my character? So I've got a 6-inch core. The only thing that I have, which would be hard to get in a trade league, because this is all just random SSF gear, like, the reason I made this character is I got a little bit frustrated with my first build. I looked at my stash and I'm like, oh, I've got really good gear to make a Toxic Rain build. Is this. This is like the only item that is hard to get. And it's an Onslaught Implicit Ring, which I got from Ritual. I nicked this off my other build because while it was nice on my other character, it wasn't. Trappers don't really need it. It was just like movement speed. Whereas for this, it's like insane having 100% uptime on the Onslaught. And this is another reason why I did this as a Deadeye and not as a Raider. Because Raider is amazing for builds like this, but when you've got Onslaught inbuilt, then it makes the Raider Onslaught less attractive. So we've got a 6-inch core with Toxic Rain level 19 only, Mirage Archer, Vicious Proj, Void Benip, Efficacy, and Swift Affliction as my 6th. According to POB, increased duration is about the same damage as a Swift Affliction, and a level, I think it's level 3. It's either level 3 or level 4, and power is about the same as a Swift. I'm not a big fan of Swift Affliction on Toxic Rain because it has that reduced duration on there, but it's not that big of a deal since we are using Efficacy, so they kind of like cancel each other out. I haven't got a Helm Enchant for the build. This is just life stats. My Apocalypse is just a random incursion chest piece with life, percent life. I've currently got Craft Avoid Ailments on there, because with that craft, this whole Crystal Skin cluster and this whole cluster, I'm completely ailment immune, but not just to free Shock Ignite, but also Brittle Sap Scorch, which again is really nice defense. I will eventually swap this craft onto Helm and Gloves, and then I will, if I stick with rares, I'll then put probably Spell Dodge on there, and just keep like ramping my dodge as high as possible. Another alternative, you can have percent life and crafted percent life, but I think I'd rather have the Spell Dodge. There are some unique chest options, which I'll talk about later, but again, I'm in SSF, I just kind of got to play with what I have access to. Haven't got Hunter Gloves. Eventually you want Hunter Gloves because you can get Chaos.multi and attack speed on there. I'm using Abyssgos just because I'm low level and I'm just mapping faster. It's 0 step, a very mediocre roll, just mid-range, no boot enchant that's helping the build. Just life, some resists, some stats. I want a Hunter one with Chaos multi plus level of gems. And then a random Hunter Quiver that I just alteration until I got the Chaos damage over time multiplier. I then orged 86 life, which was very lucky. I then regaled the decks, sadly. But yeah, you can just like slap a taxi on here. With Harvest crafting, you can actually craft Chaos.multi-gearing exceptionally easily. And because of how easy it is to gear these builds, I've got a very comfortable 13 positive Chaos res. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying this character, which is great because Toxic Rain is a build I've wanted to enjoy. And it's something that I've played a lot of it, but every time I play it, I'm just like, oh, let's just do this as Caustic Arrow. And I think the new Deadeye does a really good job for this build. It does like a really good job of just being like, okay, this makes sense. So, you know, I'd recommend it. Now, a few things to note. Is AoE is the main weakness of doing this as a Deadeye. If you do this as Pathfinder, you get 30% AoE. Something that people really don't appreciate about Toxic Rain is there are 4 ways of scaling it, and each way is important. Duration, because the way the pods work. So these are the pods. They last for a duration and then they explode. The more duration you have, the more damage you'll be doing with your pods, because the more you'll be able to stack up at once, right? So the more that are stacking up at once, the more degen. The more pods you have, so like the more additional arrows, the more pods you create. You then need increased AoE, because you need to have enough area that enemies can be stood in the middle of a group of pods and get hit by as many of them as possible. If you just add projectiles and you don't scale your AoE, it's actually possible to nerf your damage. Like, if you add too many projectiles with not enough AoE scaling, they'll be spread too far apart, and enemies in the middle won't get hit. So like, if we use Jin as an example, so she'll get hit by these 3, so that's fine. Maybe 4. It looked like that one was on the edge. But you're seeing we can guaranteed of at least 3, and then based on like the spread, like we're always getting 3, sometimes 4. So really, I want to keep upping my AoE, right? Now, apparently, this is just numbers I've seen online. These may not be true. Apparently, the breakpoint is for each pod overlap, you need 5 radius. Apparently, so with that in mind, I've got an AoE radius of 20, which should mean that I get 4 overlapping pods, which if you look at it, seems about right. Like, we always definitely get 3, and it looks like the 4th one, like if you look at the pulse, it looks like it's just in range. So it looks like those are the 4 there. So I think those numbers are about right. So basically, the rule of thumb should be for every 5 radius, that's 1 overlapping pod. So we do get 2 additional pods from Endless Munitions. This isn't lowering our single target. Like, it's not lowering our spread. It's basically, because we're still getting 4 always, it's basically just like increasing our AoE. But these 2, like basically that and that one, isn't doing anything for a single target, right? But it's just upping our map clear. So you don't want to go crazy stacking proj if you haven't then got the AoE to back it up, which is why for most setups, Carcass Jack is the best in slot DPS chess piece for Toxic Rain. However, it's only the best in slot offensive chess piece if it's pushing you up like the thresholds. So if it is a case of 5 radius as 1 overlap, if we would take my current setup with 20 radius, and we were to add a max roll Carcass Jack, assuming those numbers are correct, it wouldn't actually bump us up to another extra pod, because it's only giving us +3, right? It's only giving us +3 radius. Now, if we could then get an additional +2 radius, we would then go up to 5 overlapping pods, and we gain a massive chunk of damage, right? So it's just stuff to think about when you're planning out the build. But anyway, there's a lot more damage you could get on this tree if you would like to get more damage. You can fill in Farsight, which is just very efficient damage per point, and it's literally right there. No travel required. You can come up and grab Aspects of the Eagle, which is really good. And then very obviously you could cut some defense. You could come up for Atrophy and Growth and Decay. You could also run Cluster Jewels and cut some points. I haven't gotten any Cluster Jewels yet in SSF for this build, so I haven't bothered to math it out. Once I got them, I would probably start mathing it out and kind of see what the deal is. But if you are playing a Toxic Rain Deadeye in Trade League and your tree looks wildly different to me, and you're like, yo, Tarke, your tree's fucked, you want to be doing this kind of a tree, let me know. I'd be curious to see like what kind of setup you have. I have also provided leveling trees if you were interested in this build, if you wanted to copy it. Again, not saying it's the best setup in the world. We're only level 89, we're only just starting to kind of get into like red maps and stuff, but I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's the kind of setup that, like, even if it turns out that actually Deadeye isn't the way to go in an endgame, you want to be Pathfinder, and like it's really easy to respec, because it's a case of, like, you drop that, you go Pathfinder, and you're chilling, right? There's a lot of Toxic Rain guides out there. Be careful about which ones you go on, because a lot of them are a bit... Basically, if you ever look at a Toxic Rain guide and they run Conk effects, then they don't know what they're talking about. So look at random POBs, and yeah, if you ever see conk effect in the links, they're not worth your time. Ignore them. They messed up. But yeah, just make sure that they're properly scaling attack speed, duration, AoE. But anyway, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. I'll keep you updated on random builds I'm playing throughout the league. Bye-bye.